We'll get started here shortly. I was curious if everyone would jump into chat and just share what your biggest challenge you're facing with M365 today. Maybe it's like licensing costs or overshared data, security, governance, Copilot readiness, managed devices, policy gaps. If you would just jump into chat and give us a couple of words, be awesome.
We did a readiness assessment for a client, and they found that they had like 2,500 documents in their SharePoint library that were set to share with anyone.
Ooh! Wow.
I need to check and see if the IT person has come up from breathing after having to try to track all of those down and figure out what they need to do with them.
All right. What do you say we get started?
I am ready when you are, sir.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I'm Jeremy Adams with the Fulcrum Group, and we're glad you could join us today. Many organizations are investing heavily in Microsoft 365, but surprisingly, they're often leaving money on the table, whether it's underutilizing licensing or duplicate tools or inefficient processes, security gaps, or AI features they've already paid for but are not using. All these costs can add up quickly. So today's session is designed to help you identify where those hidden costs exist and uncover practical ways to maximize the value of your M365 environment. We'll save time for questions at the end, but feel free to drop into the chat throughout the presentation and we'll log those and ask those at the end. We are recording today, and as I asked, I was curious if people would share what their biggest challenges they're facing with Microsoft 365 today. So before handing it over to David, if you would jump into chat and just let us know what you're working on or dealing with when it comes to M365. And Lynn shared the challenge is O365 gap. Do we have any others?
Well, maybe we wait to the end, Jeremy, after we go through the presentation, and we
there we go. Ask again.
Ask again, because I think this is going to be
that's fair.
The eye-opening part of it. So
that's fair. Well, with that, we'll turn it over to our presenter, David Johnson, to get us started. And thanks again for joining us, and enjoy the session.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm David Johnson, one of the owners here at Fulcrum, and I run our sales and marketing teams. And thank you for being here today. Welcome to our webinar on how organizations lose money through Microsoft 365. This is meant to be an executive briefing session. It's not a technical training session. And before we get started, I want you to think about it. You know, nobody ever wakes up thinking today feels like a great day for wire fraud, right? So today's presentation is going to be about how most organizations don't lose money through Microsoft 365 because Microsoft failed. They lose money because convenience quietly outran governance. So type a 3 in chat if you feel like your organization depends on Microsoft 365 every single hour of the business day. 3 in chat if that's what if you really depend on Microsoft 365. Getting some 3s, all right, awesome. Well, let's keep rolling then. So I plan to go through these areas today in my presentation, but we're not trying to turn everyone into cybersecurity experts. We just want to help leadership be aware and spot silent financial risk before it becomes public pain. So here's another chance for you to type something out for me. So type 2 in chat if you assume that Microsoft handles your backups. All right, we got a few of those. Okay, let's keep rolling then. All right. So for many organizations, Microsoft is the has become the nervous system of the business. And before you as a leader ever really stopped in to govern it that way because it ties so many business functions together. One weak point can affect much more than one user. Uh, as my business partner Steve likes to say, it's like buying a pickup truck and realizing 6 months later it somehow became your office, your filing cabinet, your payroll system, and your emergency response vehicle. One of the interesting facts is that Microsoft processes 100 trillion security signals daily, screening over 5 billion emails and flagging 38 million identity risk detections in just an average day. So the issue is not necessarily whether Microsoft is good technology. The issue is whether your organization is governing this platform well enough. So this might be a little bit where you could answer that question that Jeremy had at the beginning, right? So which of these would hurt your organization the most tomorrow morning if one of these things happen? Is it fraud? Is it downtime? Is it data exposure? Is it not meeting compliance, or just wasting your money? Or is it trust and your reputation? So type your answer in chat if you can. Jeremy says trust and reputation. That's a good one. Downtime loss. Matthew thinking like an accounting guy. I like it. Multiple coming from LAN. All right. Let's go on to the next slide. So the most expensive email in your organization, probably won't look all of that dangerous. It usually will look urgent. Has anyone here received a fake DocuSign, a fake invoice, a fake Microsoft 365 alert? There's something in it about, needs to be done by 3 p.m. or this or that, that makes you think this is really urgent, needs to be done now, right? So if you receive one of those, type 4 in the chat. I know I received one this morning, so. And one thing to remember is that, attackers stopped writing emails like they were Nigerian princes years ago. Now, instead, what they do is they impersonate you, they impersonate your boss or your CFO. Their spelling is proper. So, and email fraud still works because it rides on normal business behavior. People trust familiar names and move fast. A good line to remember: most expensive mistakes don't walk in wearing a ski mask. They usually arrive looking helpful. So for nonprofits example, attackers time campaigns around fundraising seasons and grant cycles. For local government, it might be more around fake invoices and impersonation of officials. And those are some of the well-documented vectors. Oh, Jeremy's got to renew his McAfee. Yeah, I sent that to you yesterday, so I'm glad you got it.
It's only 400.
Nice. In the old days, attackers focused on attacking your firewall and breaking into your network. With today's distributed workforce, many people working from home, many applications in the cloud, modern breaches just don't look like break-ins anymore. They look like normal employees having a normal Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. They become Dave. Does anyone here have a coworker named Dave? You know Dave. He's a quiet guy. He's worked there a long time. He's reliable. Helps other people out. Well, Dave sent an email saying, "Hey, busy day. I need you to cut a quick payment to get our out before 3 p.m. today. Nothing dramatic, no broken English, no giant red flags. It even included part of a real vendor conversation thread from earlier that week. What nobody realized was that Dave had clicked a fake SharePoint link 2 days earlier while trying to review what looked like a vendor document. The attacker stole his session token, bypassed his MFA entirely, and took over his account, and then quietly created inbox rules so warning emails disappeared before Dave ever saw them. By the time the organization had figured it out, the attacker had monitored conversations, redirected emails, impersonated internal staff, and pushed through a fraudulent payment. And the scary part of this whole situation wasn't any kind of sophisticated malware. It only required trust. So this is one of the most important slides of the presentation. So think about this, right? They're logging in instead of breaking in. So be careful of what you click on. Don't click on things that you're not expecting. Verify links, other things before you click on them. We'll talk some more about that. Let's keep going. So now let's talk about another example. So this is I'm just going to be relatively non-technical here, but step one, seemed harmless. I've got somebody sending me a file via SharePoint. I'm just going to click on it and download it. Step two, if you'll notice that adversary in the middle where they steal your session token and they bypass your MFA, you don't even notice anything. It doesn't trigger any alarms. By step three, the attacker had already inherited the trust of the user. And by step four, the victims weren't even seeing warning signs. And then step five is where leadership discovers that password resets aren't magic. You've got to do more than just reset the password. So as my business partner Steve likes to say, changing the password after this attack is like it's kind of like changing the locks after the raccoon is already inside eating cereal in your kitchen. So it's too late. So there's more things that have to be done, and you'll see some of the things over in section 5 there. You've got to revoke sessions. You've got to hunt down those inbox rules that have been created. You've got to clean that account up before you re-enable it. So let's talk about another scenario. Someone leaves a laptop in an airport. If you've ever left your laptop somewhere that was inappropriate, left it in your car or left it at a client's office, put a 5 in chat for me. I probably need to put one in for myself, so I'll put a 5 in because I've done that before, left it at a client's office where I had to drive 2 hours to get it. Jeremy doesn't have a laptop, so it's probably harder for him to do it. So let's say someone leaves a laptop in an airport. So that's not an IT problem anymore. It's an organizational exposure problem. And so some organizations have better security on the office copy maker than they do on their employee laptops. The thing we have to remember is that the cloud data still has to land somewhere. It has to land as a synced file on a laptop, a downloaded file on a phone, inside of a browser session. So the leadership question is not just, is our cloud secure? Really the bigger question is, do we know which devices are touching data and do we trust them? Did you know that a laptop with an unencrypted hard drive can have all of its data accessed in a matter of minutes? If you know that or not, say yes or no. And then put that in the chat. So We've seen some other scenarios out there as well, and you see the list of things, unmanaged personal laptops accessing company data. You know, do you know if that personal laptop has the right type of protections on it? Is it encrypted? All of those things, right? So, all right. Does anybody share documents using SharePoint? If you do, enter 5 in the chat. Has anyone ever selected share it with anyone with the link because it was faster or easier? You sent it to somebody, they couldn't open it, and you tried different things. You finally just said, all right, I'm just going to do select anyone with the link because that's easier and faster. So put a 6 in chat if you've done that before. So AI doesn't create messy environments. It just exposes how messy they already were. Sharing permissions are like leftovers in the office fridge. Nobody who remembers who put them there, and eventually something dangerous grows. For nonprofits, you could have things like donor records or beneficiary data, board documents, grant proposal. Any of that kind of thing could be sitting in Teams channel with broad membership. Local government could have PII or sensitive records that might be in SharePoint with the permissions never properly set. Uh, and the AI angle is important. If your environment is messy, AI can make the mess more consequential. And so that doesn't mean that AI is the problem. It means that you have poor data governance. And if you have that poor data governance, AI will amplify the problem. All right, let's keep going here. So for smaller teams, especially in nonprofits, government agencies, small businesses, the risk can even be higher because there's usually no dedicated security team monitoring the environment. Business leaders assume that because they have antivirus or some kind of endpoint protection, that they are protected against things. And we've also found that many organizations think that they're being monitored for cybersecurity threats, but what they really have is network monitoring. So maybe the monitoring is monitoring if the server or network is up or down, monitoring for things like low disk space, just basic alerts. And cybersecurity monitoring is different. It looks for behavior, new accounts, suspicious sign-ins, privilege changes, forwarding rules, and unusual access. Ideally, you would have what we refer to as a true SOC MDR, which is basically a security operations center vendor that's monitoring your environment, and they're detecting threats 24/7 and responding to them, especially things like a Microsoft 365 security event, like an account takeover where somebody's account is compromised. Fragmented visibility into your environments, your local environment, your cloud environment, leads to fragmented decisions, and fragmented decisions are expensive. So. All right, how many of you have heard something like this statement? There is a shared responsibility reality. Microsoft provides a powerful platform and excellent tooling, but customers own configuration, design, privilege design, sharing rules, monitoring, retention choices, and response capability. So in other words, Microsoft gives you a very strong vehicle but it does not automatically steer it for you. So looking at this list, is there any of these items that come up that you feel like these are words that you've spoken before? MFA is already taken care of. Microsoft backs up everything we need. The default settings are secure enough. We're too small to be targeted. Our Microsoft license includes all the security that we need. I've heard these a lot from clients over the years. So yeah, we've heard them before for sure. All right, now we're going to go to 5 questions that reveal real risk fast. It's kind of hard to say. So strong IT teams love these questions. Weak IT teams get uncomfortable around them. So these are questions that you can ask your IT partner or your internal IT team. How do we stop impersonation and payment fraud in email? It's a big one, right? Uh, and you got to have a good answer with that. How do we protect admin and privileged accounts? If somebody can take over an admin account in an environment, the sky is the limit for them in a matter of how much data can they steal, how much money can they steal. Question 3, which devices are allowed to access organizational data and how do we know? Cloud security is going to end at the device if device trust isn't managed. Where is sensitive data overshared right now? And every co-pilot readiness assessment we've done has found that out for sure. It's made that a true statement. Most organizations have more exposure than they realize. Oh, sorry, I went too far ahead. Uh, and then what would recovery actually look like after a compromise? That's a big one, right? There's lots of different types of compromises, but if someone's account took Microsoft 365 account got taken over, which is something that we see quite often, well, how do you recover from that? How long is it going to take? What's it going to look like? Do you have a checklist? Do you have an SOP? And the thing I want you to make sure that I'm trying to talk about here is I don't expect you to have these answers, but your IT needs to have these answers, right? Uh, you don't need to know how to configure, conditional access or other tools, but you just need to be able to ask these questions and get the good answers for them. So, uh, you know, if their answer sounds a little fuzzy, then that means that's something that is going to be interesting to you, and you're going to want to dive into it more deeply. So. All right. And now let's talk a little bit about, what are some things that you can do easily and quickly that are going to give you a good payoff. So, and the good news is you don't need perfection to dramatically reduce your risk. Most organizations can reduce a lot of exposure just by getting a handful of high value basics right. Um, and the real value of having an assessment done isn't fear. Your IT department shouldn't fear it. Your internal leadership shouldn't fear it. The real value is clarity and prioritization. Uh, and so, the goal is not to boil the ocean or buy a dozen new tools. You can start with identity. That's your highest return on effort. Uh, and then mailbox protections. Fraud is one of the fastest ways to lose money. And then you can get to devices and oversharing and guest access. And then down the road, you can do more around, policy consistency. But, just keep it practical. Progress is possible without a multi-year project. And if the organization is not sure where to start, that's where a structured assessment is designed to reveal where to start at. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this, but I'm definitely not giving anybody legal advice. I'm just making a leadership point here. Microsoft 365 governance is increasingly tied to cyber insurance, audits by third parties, vendors, banks. You may have privacy that you have to meet in Texas. You may have privacy you have to meet in other states as well if you do business in other states. There's AI governance. How do you deploy AI in a way that's safe for your organization that doesn't increase your risk? If there's a breach and you've got to respond to it, what does that look like? And of course, if you're a large enough organization, you've got a board, you've got to have that board level accountability as well. So if anybody would like to talk about any of these areas, some of the new Texas laws that have gone into effect over the last couple of years, just get with myself or Jeremy after this call, and we'll schedule some time to talk about it. So. All right, we've got our key takeaways here. So the organizations that usually recover fastest are not the ones with the biggest budgets. They're the ones that got the visibility before they had an accident. So we talked about a lot of things today. What's the one thing you heard today that your leadership should probably verify this quarter? If you have one thing, type your answer into chat. All right, we'll keep going here. All right, we're getting closer to the end here, so we do offer some Microsoft 365 assessments. Think of it as like a doctor's checkup. We're here to diagnose. We're not remodeling the house. So usually after a presentation like this, there are a couple of reactions. One group says we're probably doing better than we thought, and the other says we probably should verify a few things. And honestly, those are both healthy outcomes. So. And we are running a promo on this one, the Microsoft 365 assessment for a $500 one-time fee on that. And then we have
Hold up, David. Hold up.
what?
I'm going to make an executive decision here and now.
What?
Yeah, here and now. Anybody on this call that wants this assessment to happen by August 15th, I'm going to give you a free assessment. Free assessment to Dale, free assessment to Matthew, free assessment to everybody on this call.
Are you Oprah now or what?
I am. So whether it's a Microsoft 365 security check or potentially a Copilot technical readiness assessment.
Yeah, I'm for some reason I'm having trouble getting to my Microsoft 365 slide, but yeah, we do have a Copilot readiness assessment as well. So, and these will give you some really good list of things to basically work through. So kind of like a punch list of things to do. You could take to your IT department, or you could take it to your managed IT provider and give them a list of things that they can do. So So awesome. Well, thanks for jumping in there, Jeremy. And we're gonna have to
Sure.
have a talk a little bit later, though. So
That's okay. I'm ready.
all right. So that's my entire presentation. So I kind of ran through that pretty quickly. Any questions pop up that are top of mind that people want to talk about?
Lane, if you want to jump in and expand what you mean by fill the gaps of the Office 365 infrastructure, feel free to unmute.
Well, I think we already have a meeting set up for
Yeah,
2 weeks from here.
Yes.
Yeah, so that
I
would
got you.
be a good start for our starting point.
Yeah, we'll go through the assessment and get you this red, yellow, green punch list of things that you're already doing.
Hmm.
Give yourself a pat on the back. Things that are in red, that need to be taken care of. We can help you prioritize those and figure out what's it going to take to do it. So the
Yep,
good news is it can be done relatively, easily. So,
yep. So I'm looking forward to that meeting.
all right, awesome.
Awesome. Anybody else?
Steve, and in your conversations with different clients and things over the years, has there been any big questions that they've had with you that would be helpful or useful for the folks here?
In regards to what?
Just any topics that people have asked you about Microsoft 365 that you feel like would be of use or interest,
Uh,
expounding on any of these things here.
no, I think the big thing related to Office 365 is just that it's a big gaping hole in the middle of cybersecurity for most organizations. Uh, they've gone through great lengths to get a firewall in place, locks on the building. They've got all these controls in the organization, but because Office 365 is on all the time. It's ubiquitous. It's available everywhere. Um, it's hard to lock down. It's hard to secure. It's hard to protect users who are in it all day long. And I think the big thing is just incorporating Office 365 security into their overall security strategy. Including recovery and detection, all of those kinds of things. To me, that's the big thing is just in it for what it is, just something truly unique because it's always available, always in use, and easy. I wouldn't say easy to get access to, but hard to secure. Maybe is the right term.
I got a question for you, Steve. So I know that Microsoft makes your Microsoft 365 data, you know, uh, available, right? They make it highly available, and redundant in the cloud and all of those things. But do they back up your data?
So they back up the data for 30 days, but it's incumbent upon each organization to have their own backup system for greater retention, for archival, for whatever it is that they have business continuity related, aside from just the data being online. Microsoft is a cloud vendor, just like any cloud vendors you use in your organization. So in a shared risk responsibility model, there's things they're responsible for, but there's things that you're responsible for. And you're responsible for backups, for having the right settings in place, for enabling and configuring security, for adding policy around things like Teams, SharePoint, all the other tools that you use in addition to email.
Yeah, I remember we had a client that a user on the way out the door deleted a bunch of data, and they didn't realize it for a few months. And by the time that they needed that data, it was gone. It had been deleted permanently. So without a backup solution in place, they weren't able to recover that. They have since have a backup solution in place. So data can be it can be deleted on purpose. It can people drag and drop folders sometimes and accidentally move something somewhere and they can't find it later. But I think the main thing is that you have a lot of data in Microsoft 365 now. It's not just email data anymore like it was initially. Now you've got Teams data and SharePoint data and OneDrive data. There's a lot to back up. So,
Absolutely.
what else? Any questions? Anything from the presentation today that really resonated with you, or you thought this was really important for you?
Are you talking to me or everyone else?
Anybody? Wow, I did the very best presentation of all time, and I answered everybody's questions. Well, I don't want to think about the alternative. So, Ryan, can I pick on you for a minute?
Yep, I was just typing in the chat, but I think that the moral of the story is you got to get started somewhere. So you've got to have an idea of what does your environment look like. You've got to have a baseline. You've got to measure it and put some sort of a score or something quantitative to understand what you have there. And so from there, you can identify the gaps and start working toward the improvement. It's just like any other process. But I just think that too often Microsoft 365 environments started as server environments, specifically with their file shares, and they just sort of got ported over. And so the mess that they had on an old file server that could be decades old just got transferred to Microsoft 365, and a lot of that mess is still there. And that can be an intimidating topic to think about. So you just got to get started to get in there and get it cleaned up, get things tagged, and understand what data you have there. And then from there, you eat the elephant one bite at a time, and you have a better understanding of what you have and therefore what you need to do to improve it. And then once you get things squared away, then it's just about maintaining it and having those standards. And then you can get, more excited about, is our data protected? First of all, you just sleep better at night knowing that we've got everything in place that we need to have to make sure that our data is safe. But then it's like, okay, let's start dreaming about stuff like what can we do with this data? What operational efficiencies might be available to us? What type of invoicing issues is there revenue sitting there that we're not capitalizing on because we've not compared what we're invoicing or billing versus what was actually in the scope of a project, for example. What stuff out there could actually help my business that I just don't have the ability to define and ascertain right now because the data is so unstructured and out of control. So you just got to get started, and then you can start to realize the returns, and it's just all about priorities. You just got to, draw a line in the sand or put a stake in the ground or whatever cliche you want to use here to just say, okay, enough is enough. Let's do this. Let's make it a priority. Let's get it done. And then we can start to realize the return on the investment. So
awesome. I love it. All right. Well, if there are any other final questions, if not, we'll wrap it up. So. All right, Jeremy, you wanna lead us out?
Absolutely. I think there's an old adage, if you can measure it, you can manage it. And I know it doesn't necessarily flip, but that's kind of what we were talking about today. So if anybody wants to have any kind of the conversations that are around, policies, compliance, governance, over shared data, managed devices, feel free to reach back out to us, and I'll be reaching back out to everyone as well. So if there's nothing else, we appreciate you jumping on today, and thank you for joining us, and thank you for having that interest in Microsoft 365 and the information that we share.